before, and many of us are new to this product. All right, I use Genially a lot. I particularly love the escape rooms because I know the students responded very well. And so Christian is going to take us through. As I said, I know we would have to have a second session because Genially allows us to do so much. So, of course, Christian is the expert, so he's going to introduce himself, and then we'll actually start officially at 6 o'clock. Christian, you can go ahead.
Hey everyone, thanks for the intro, Leanne, and good to see everyone here. My name's Christian Klejcik, and I'm Customer Success Manager here in North America for Genially. So I'll put my slides up at the top of the hour, but just want to say that I prefer a more interactive session, so I don't feel so alone throughout the hour. So feel free to any comments that you have, plug them in the chat. If you want to unmute yourself, you can. There will be a time for Q&A at the end of the session, or if anything, just shoot me a little reaction just to telling me that I'm doing a good job if I am. But no, really excited for the session and for you all to start using the solution. But I think I'll give it another minute or so before I get started. Leanne, do I have your go ahead?
Yes, you can go ahead. I will let people who come in late enter. So you can go ahead.
Great. And you can see my screen?
Yes.
Great. All right. Well, welcome to the first training for Genially. Again, thank you, Leanne, for the introduction. For those that jumped on a little late, my name is Christian Klejcik, and I'm Customer Success Manager over at Genially. So I'll be your main point of contact from now through your entire usage of the product. I'm working very closely with Leanne on onboarding and scheduling future trainings. So if you need anything, I'll put my email in the chat at the end of the session, but it's great to meet you all. So today I'm going to walk through a couple things regarding Genially. I know some of you have been using it for a while now, but the objectives today for including those that haven't been using it as much is to once again make you all familiar with the uses and applications of the tool, understanding the full library of resources that is available to you all and how to make the best use of it. Then we'll get into the specifics of how to use the tool from a pretty basic level. What I want to make sure that you all understand is how easy it is to use Genially, even though the opportunities are pretty endless, and that idea might be somewhat overwhelming. Super easy to use Genially, and I'll walk through how we make it so. So we'll walk through some of those basic functionalities in about 25 minutes or so. But for those of you that are somewhat unfamiliar with Genially, I do want to provide some sort of introduction to who we are and what we do. The product itself is built on a couple different digital competence for educators. So we work specifically, we're a company that's based in Spain. So we've built the product with this framework for educators, from the government of Spain. But the concepts itself are pretty universal. So, we built this product with teachers in mind so that, a teacher and students could be able to collaborate across digital channels, interact with other technologies, create content fully digital. Everything that we do is within the cloud, integrating with other technologies, and, being able to create content and utilize the creativity that you might not have unlocked yet. So that's what we build Genially around. And now here, I want to start talking about how we communicate information. And there are two ways to communicate. And so on the left, here we have an example of traditional communication, the kind that we've used for years with pretty static and unidirectional content. So it might contain some links. It looks pretty text heavy, but these links take us out of the creation, for instance, right? So the audience might miss some of the content, or because in this scenario there's a lot of text, or the link might take you somewhere else. But on the right, we have a communication that's made with Genially. So it contains the same information, but it's presented a bit differently. So here we focus specifically on visual communication. And so thanks to interactivity, we can layer content and create various focus points. As I hover, I'm interacting with the Genially, and different focus points come up. So what we're seeing here is that essentially we're ranking ideas. We're able to interact and in a way adventure through the slides. So the receiver chooses the information that they want to consume. You don't see everything, but we're able to contextualize and keep the audience attention, since they don't have to leave the creation to view all the information. So going back to that reference of the link, I'm able to view, or we're able to view that same link within the content itself. So ultimately what we achieve with Genially is experiential communication. The receiver becomes an active entity that explores, and when we explore, our brain becomes more active. And this, what we've seen is it results in a better memorization of the content. So as you can see, the content on the left is, boring, I would say, and content on the right is more communicative. We're not really predisposed to consume information as seen on the left, but on the right, we're able to communicate ideas, again, layered and in a more interactive fashion. So, we've, for the last 20 years, I'm sure you all have had a PDF on your desk, which has been interesting, but you haven't had the time to read it. It's been lengthy, complicated, tedious. So, why 20 years later are we still creating content in the same way that we have before? And, I would say the reason for that is people perceive creating this kind of content as both difficult and expensive. As you might think you need a marketing degree or some training of that sorts to create content that's beautiful, or a programming degree or license to create content that's that interactive, right? So with Genially, we're able to say you don't need that kind of license or training to create something as interactive and beautiful. We're able to create something that achieves the same results as a designer or programmer in less time and with much more simplicity. It's the interface is designed and detailed to be user friendly. It's as simple as selecting and dragging items, right? Drag and drop. We've combined web technology with the ease of office automation to achieve a really higher level in the creation of interactive content. And one of the main reasons that we're also so easy to use is because we've had a great team of those designers that create hundreds of templates that you're able to pull from and get started using right away. The content that you're creating doesn't have to be made from scratch. From the click of a button, you have a template that is great for a course that you're going to teach, that you can just much more simply edit the text, and the logic and the animations are all set for you. So especially with these templates, you're just clicks away from creating something that can communicate exactly what you want to create. So not to overwhelm you, as I mentioned, but this is Genially is really used to create so many different kinds of tools and content. Leanne mentioned escape rooms are something that you can create, but it's really a 360 tool. For example, I'll pull up a couple. If you want a presentation, you're able to make a simple presentation. This is an example of the template that we have access to, and I'll walk you through a little bit of how exactly to pull from these templates and edit them. But for now, I'll show you some examples. A presentation with an index. Another example would be, gamification, creating quizzes directly within Genially. So for example, this is one of the escape rooms that Leanne was talking about, where you can, read somewhat of an introduction, read a little bit about the mission, interact in that way, and then move forward with the escape room, a five-step game. Another example that we'll get a little deeper into today are those interactive images. Something similar to what you saw before. We have all the information layered, where you can access videos or access embedded objects, images, and just play around with an image much more than just reading the content on it. I'll also mention, pretty quickly, some guides and personal branding. So also, if you want to create something for your social media, or something for your team that you're able to navigate, right? These are a couple examples just of all the kinds of content that you can create with Genially. We'll focus on a couple in particular today, right? So the gamification and the interactive images, but this is just to give you an idea of, don't have to be a programmer or a designer to create this kind of content. We have templates available so that you can easily plug into each one of these. And the way that we do all this is based on 3 pillars. So interactivity, animation, and integration. So first, interactivity. Genially appeals to human nature through that. We generate layers of content that helps scale information to make it more understandable and digestible. One thing I'll mention is neuroscience indicates that people remember 10% of what they hear, 20% of what they read, and 80% of what they see and do. So interactivity is built with that neuroscience in mind, so that we're all able to retain concepts better and learn faster, just as we do in the real world. The second is animation. So innately, our attention goes to what moves the most, right? Almost 50% of our brain is involved in the processing of visual stimuli. So we must direct the animation to our audience in order to capture their attention, right? And I'll walk through a little more of how exactly we do this in a couple minutes. But it brings elements to life and allows us to rank the ideas, right? So we focus on the most important elements and make it easier to remember the content, since information is retained 42% more when content is animated. And the last that I'll mention is integration. So integration is probably my favorite, one of Genially's superpowers. And what does that mean? That means that we can integrate almost any HTML content. So for example, right, here we've integrated, a live Twitter feed. But, you can integrate a Google Map, or a blog, or Menti was a tool that we use for capturing live data from people in the audience or people that you're teaching. Anything we're able to embed, we can embed within Genially and add it to bring life and an interaction to our presentation. So going back to this point, Genially is a technology that was built pretty greatly on methodology. It's, these are the 4 pillars of the methodology that we've built our product on. Again, going back to visual storytelling and the innate nature of us to tell stories. I believe one of the statistics is that 80 to 90% of the things that we are saying day to day are in the form of a story. So that's ultimately what how we want to bring context to what we're teaching. And stories aren't flat, right? So this adds deep layers to how we consume information. Gamification and collaboration and participatory classes are all ways that we can use Genially to not only communicate to one another but work together on solving problems. And this all leads to us listening more, exploring more, discovering rather than just seeing, right? A standard PowerPoint presentation, you're looking one bullet at a time, but here you're discovering a whole world that is Genially in learning landscapes and so on. So this is a little just to describe a little more to describe how we've built the product itself.
Christian,
for the case of yep.
We have a question from one of the participants. They would like to know, can users download content that was embedded into the presentation, for example, files?
Yeah, I'll go over that a little later. Downloading embedded information is, the short answer is not that I'm aware of. Embedded files, I more so mean like embedding a 3D map or something that you can interact within, but not so much something that you can download from Genially. I'll showcase a little more of what I mean and once I get to the training, if that's okay, Leanne.
Yes, that's fine.
And then let me see if I can't see the chat for some reason, so I just want to make sure that I have that. Okay, now I have the chat. No, so no documents for the embed. So I mentioned the 360 element to Genially, but I wanted to pull some applications specifically for education. Leanne, I know you're really gung-ho on the gamification, but some things that might be interesting to you all, that's not just presenting content that you could use Genially for. For example, would be like here, administration, if you wanted to build, and apologies for these being in Spanish, but as you can see, we have an interactive whiteboard. You could do a calendar of assignments that you send to students, just to give you an idea of. So these are two different Geniallys that you can interact with. Building a syllabus or table for homeworks and assignments, right? You could just see how vibrant these graphics are, and the way that I see it, these Geniallys almost replicate a web page in itself, and for them to be fully shareable almost gives you that same sense. Again, here's an example of planning, examples of the syllabus that was created with Genially. And the great thing is all these things that I'm showing examples of are available as templates that you can quickly make your own. We also have a large database of inspirations, right? So we have about 15 million users worldwide, and a lot of the users make their Geniallys available for people like you to go and pull inspiration from, replicate, and use as a template of your own. So again, this is an example of how to create some animated learning material from Genially. I won't go through them all, but I'll go ahead, Leanne, and make sure to send this to you, so that your people are able to play around with these different templates. So right here I'm showcasing. So this is a little game that someone made for students to identify time periods, different time periods by objects, animals, types of cells and plants. And with Genially, I'm showing you our drag and drop feature. So another way to interact with this content. Just another Genially, if you wanted to make a quick database of your team and showcase your team or the people in your class, and include videos. There's these are a couple, but I just want to make sure that you all have a vision of some of the inspirations that people have created. So yeah, this is all in in English, Kathleen. The examples that I have right now are some of them are in Spanish, just because this training, well, our whole organization, or most of them are in Spain. So that's why you'll be seeing some of this content in Spanish, but Genially itself is fully translated to English. So these are a few examples. I'll make sure that you have this Genially in your inbox. I'll send it to Leanne, and you all can play around with it after this call. Okay, I'll pause here and see if there are any questions on the Genially's methodology. If there are any initial questions before we get to actually creating content. I'm sure when we get to creating content itself, there's going to be many questions about the possibilities of creation, but just for 30 seconds, if anyone has any questions or comments so far.
So you can now unmute yourselves if you have a question. It'll be easier for you to just unmute yourselves, but I will read one. We have one asking, will students have full functionality if viewing a presentation via a mobile device?
So I will get into that, but that's a good question, Nian. I hope I pronounced that right.
Yes, you got it correct.
Good. So yes to full functionality, except for one aspect of Genially. So I don't know if there's a good example here if I go a couple slides back. But as you can see, I've been clicking on elements, right? To showcase what's behind that interactivity. But there are some elements when it comes to interactivity that you're able to access the content by hovering over, right? Instead of me clicking. I don't have a good example right now in this slide, but I'll definitely show you when I go to building the interactive image that we're about to get into. The difference between hovering and clicking. On a mobile device, you can't hover your mouse, right? Mobile devices strictly tapping. So that's the one thing that you have limit to, just something to be conscious of when building that out. Cool. Any other questions? Probably time for one more. Great. Yes, you can solve that by using mobile device with a mouse. Yeah, that's correct. All right, now that I got some water, I'm pretty ready to go into our next step. So if you haven't yet, to go in and register for Genially, it's as simple. You can create a free account and go to genially.com and create an account, sign up in the top right. As I'm sure Leanne has mentioned, you all are a Genius Center. So you should have access to an EDU Pro account, which will give you access to many premium features that we offer specifically to teachers. So once you register, you'll have access to. Yep.
So most of the people here are part of the Genius Center, but some of them are being exposed to Genially for the first time.
Got it. Very helpful, and I'll walk through a couple of those differences as we move through this first training. But no, that's helpful, Leanne. Thank you. So once you get into Genially, you'll access your panel or your dashboard, and this is where you can start creating Geniallys. So as you can see from the Create Genially button, access your creations, create and sort. Where you can access the hundreds of templates that I mentioned, right? So different presentations, we have them sorted presentations through gamification for whatever you're interested in creating. I'll leave this for a bit. My brand inspiration, which I spoke about. So these are all publicly available Geniallys that other people have created. Any of them teachers, and you can sort through education. I'll walk through the settings in a bit, but I'll go straight to creating since that's what I'm sure you all are most interested in. So what I'm going to do right now is teach you all of the basics of creating with Genially through an interactive image. And I do want to go back and cover those three pillars that I mentioned earlier, the interactivity, animation, and integration. So I'll start with an interactive image. And it's simple as going to create Genially, going to interactive image, and then from my desktop, I'm going to add an interactive image. So let me one second. Should have it on the ready. So I'm going to upload this image of Trinidad and Tobago. And just like that, I'm taken to the editor. Now, in this case, I want to use the full image, but you have a first view at what the image editor looks like, where you can rotate the image, mirror it, flip it as a mirror, zoom in, zoom out, and so forth. But I'm going to go ahead and import our first image. Now bear with me while it loads in. All right, so now we're taking to the Genially Editor. And as you can see, as an interactive image, it's already included some default interactive elements. So I'll go ahead and begin working with those. But right now, I'm looking to teach my class about Trinidad and Tobago, and I'm doing so using an image, an interactive image. So you'll see a panel of elements on the left that you can add, and I'll start with text. So pretty simply, to add text, you click on text on the left-hand side, and you'll see a variety of text fonts that you can import. But for the sake of this, I'll go ahead. All I do is click, and it's already imported. So I'll go ahead and say, now I don't like how large that looks, so I'm going to highlight that, decrease the size. If you go to the top panel, you can edit the font type and the font size. In this case, I'm going to, oops. It's a little too small. Perfect. Cool. The visibility is not looking great at this point. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a highlight to the text. And to do that, I go to this top panel, highlight color. I'm going to do yellow. So there we go, Trinidad and Tobago, and I'm going to include this interactive image up top. Okay. Now the first thing, the first pillar that I want to touch on is interactivity. All right. So how do we access the interactivity of Genially? And the way that we do that is pretty simple. We click on an element. We look at the hand that's pointed up, and you'll see that's interactivity. And we click on it. Now there are 4 types of interactivity within Genially: a tooltip, a window, go to page, and link. At this point, I'll add a tooltip, which will take me to an editor. So tooltip is something that we were seeing earlier in the presentation, which is information that's activated by the hovering of a mouse, right? So Leanne, do you have any fun facts about Trinidad and Tobago?
I thought you did your research, Christian, but we can we can talk about Google. We can say steel pan. Yeah, we can talk about our national instrument. Is the steel pan. Yeah,
there was one fact that I'm remembering now. It's home to one of the world's spiciest peppers. Is that right? Is that the Trinidad scorpion?
Yes, that is true.
Let's see, Trinidad's. So within this tooltip, you'll see the ability to add text. You can also add an image, a video, or HTML embedded code. But upon posting this information, and as you're editing a Genially, you can see, or you can always preview what the Genially will look like by clicking preview here in the top right. Just by hovering over this plus, you'll see the information come to life and pop up. Tooltips are usually meant for smaller amounts of content, just because it is something that pops up upon hover. There's a character limit of, I believe, 250 characters, but you can include images and videos within that, as you saw earlier in the presentation as well. But this is one of the modes of interactivity that we'll see within Genially. And just to go back to the editor, I'll click on edit. The second piece of interactivity that I wanted to walk through was the window. So I'll go back and click interactivity and create a window. The layout is very similar. You can also navigate through by tooltip and window in the left of this panel. But I'll note that the window is meant for larger or more amounts of content if you do want someone to click within that object and start discovering it that way. But I do want to go to and speak a little to the integration piece of Genially within this window. So in a separate window, I'm actually going to go to Google Maps, and I have this open on my end. Give me 1 second. And this is just an example, but again, to show you how versatile Genially can be. I'm going, simply to Google Maps and search up Trinidad and Tobago. I see here the share feature, so I'm going to click on that. And I see embed a map. So usually what we're looking for is these two arrows that identify that code is, iframe and HTML. I'll copy this, go back to our interactive image, click on these two arrows, put us in the code view, and then I'll paste the code. Okay. And so once I save that and preview it again, you'll see how the window now interacts, right? So this is something that's clickable, as I mentioned before. And upon clicking on it, I'm directly within the Google Map itself. And I can interact fully with this Google Map as much as I want. Again, we looked at a Twitter feed earlier. A lot of teachers have worked with 3D images that they were able to embed. The possibilities are really endless with this integration feature. So if there's any questions of, hey, can I integrate this directly with Genially, let me know in the chat, and we can try it out. I've also done like Google Forms if you want to collect information directly within a Genially. But for the sake of this example, I just wanted to show you those two methods of interactivity, right? So at this point, our image is starting to come to life, right? We have a couple different layers that we've added to it. In this circumstance, I haven't done much placement, right? Say you were teaching science and you wanted to have interactive objects around different parts of the human skeleton. That might be a good idea for how to create a interactive image. The second thing that I want to get into is animation, right? So how do I animate these objects? Right now, as I preview the image, everything's pretty static. But if I click on an object and look at this, I would say it's a meteor looking icon, you'll see the ability to add animation. And once I click on that, we have an animation come up from the sidebar. And you'll see there are different ways for an element to animate while on a Genially. Either how it enters, how it exits, a continuous animation, or an animation when you hover a mouse over it. But for this case, I'm going to add a entrance animation. And I'm going to say I want it to come from bottom to top. and I want it to fade in. And you'll see that it's showing me a little preview of what that's going to look like. And I want it to fade in 0.5 seconds after I open the slide. One thing that I'll mention here is that you can layer animations. So not only can I have something that enters, I can also set a continuous animation for it to continuously, say, rotate over the course of the presentation. So you'll see, as indicated by these yellow dots, that I've applied not one, but 2 animations to this presentation. Okay. So for the title itself, I'm also going to add an animation. And upon entering, I want this, let's see, to turn on. And I want it to do so, I'll have it do so right away. A quick tip as you start creating Geniallys, you might say, oh, well, I have to, edit each object individually. Something really cool that we've integrated within Genially is ability to copy and paste animations, right? So if I click on the object that I already animated, and I go up here to the right, next to animation, you'll see these 2 squares. I can copy the animation actions, okay? So once I copy that, and say I want to apply those same animation effects to this button per se, I'll go into the animation, click on the object, go into animation. And then next to those 2 boxes, you see a check mark, and I'll paste the animation values. And you'll see that those same values are pasted to that object. So now what does our interactive image look like? Now it's a little, more vibrant, brought to light. So now we have an interactive image that's, more vibrant. We can interact with if we want to learn more about the country. If we want to explore the country in the context of a map. These are a couple of the very, basic features that can, really make a presentation or an image or a guide stand out that some of these other technologies that we have been using for years don't have. I do see a question from Maria. Is there a limit to the size of the Genially? For example, if you embed a lot of interaction, does that make the file size very large? And is there a file size limit? There's not a file size limit. I haven't seen an issue with the animations causing any issues with the Genially itself. There's no limit in size, although I did recently have an issue where one of our users, the app was slowing down after they had 200 slides in one of their modules, and they parted down to, I think it was like 150, and that helped. But there's no limit itself, just because everything that we host is in the cloud. You can embed a poll. Let me see if I can bring up an example of how to do that. Can users embed another app such as quizzes into Genially? I haven't used quizzes, but my assumption is yes. Janelle, we'll see if I can get an example of that sent over to Leanne. So yeah, Maria. So actually today we did the Genially team. We had a training on a new feature that we were rolling out, and we used Menti, which is a live polling service. Now I don't have a Menti account, but you are using that technology. We were able to poll the audience and show those poll results live. But something that I can show, just for example, is like a Google form. So Janelle and Maria, my short answers are yes, but I don't have a at the ready poll that I can embed, but something that I can. So say, for instance, I have a sample Google form, and you want to collect long form text answers from students. What I'm looking for are those two arrows again that we saw as an embed, which I'm sure something like quizzes would have. Again, I'll look into that, Janelle. Can you all hear me, by the way? I think my my headphones went out of battery. Leanne, can you give me a thumbs up if you can see me?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, great. So for example, in this Google form, I go to send and I find these two arrows, just, a way to embed HTML. I'm going to grab that, copy that, go back to my interactive image. Now, how do I find one of these objects? I'll go here in my left panel to interactive elements, and you'll see a wide array of buttons and pre-created buttons with text and social media icons that you can use. Let me see if I can find a button that will allow me to, will indicate that I can write something. So say here, all I do is click on it. Put that there. Change the color of it so that it matches. That's close enough, right? So again, for this form, I'll go to interactivity. In this case, I'll do a window. And I'll embed the form. So you'll see this Google form, and you'll see that I didn't add any animation to it, is now accessible directly within the Genially. Got it? There is another way to insert some of these elements. So I'll walk through some of these, some of the features that you'll see on the left corner. I mentioned that you can add text. You can add other resources. We have a library of shapes and icons and graphs and charts that you can use. Those interactive elements that you saw. I'll speak a little more about the Smartblocks in the next exercise. But for example, if you go to insert, you'll see that you can insert audio, video, and others. If I were to insert that code that we just pulled from Google Forms here, it wouldn't necessarily have to be within that button, but since we were building the interactive image, that's where I decided to place it. But if I insert it, it's right on the Genially page. Just to give you another idea of how that content can be added and included to the presentation. Okay. So that is a short example of the basic functionalities and again those pillars that I mentioned, the interactivity, the animation, and the integrations. I see we're at 15 minutes. Okay, Alicia, I'll get to your question in a bit. If there are no other questions, I'll move to the next little module. If that sounds good. I like these questions that are coming in the chat, all great questions, and it seems like we'll have the time to cover them. So we created something from scratch, and that was an interactive image. So I'm going to go back to the dashboard. And as educators, and as Leanne was excited to learn about, I'm going to walk through some of the gamification aspects of Genially, and just simply how you can take quite a bit of these templates that we have and easily start plugging into the creations and use your content in that manner. So I'm going to go to create Genially. To answer your question, Alicia, you can import a PowerPoint and Geniify it. I'm still figuring out how I think Geniify is the best way to say that. But if you go to presentations and create, you'll see the ability to import a PowerPoint here. The only caveat is that it has to be in PPTX format, which most are, but you can do that. You can embed a Genially in a Word doc, and you will not lose the interactive images. And I'll walk through some of that now. So looking at these templates, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to gamification and look at the templates that we have that are already gamified. So looking at the templates, and I'm going to wait for some of these to load, just because I have a preferred one that I like to show on these. You'll see a variety of templates that we can use that have been created by people on our team. So you don't have to worry about being a designer. I know I'm surely not a designer. So these templates are things that I go to for whenever I'm preparing presentations for my job. But you'll see if I click on a template, you'll be able to preview it. And some of these templates have various pre-existing color schemes that you can select from. So this is a simple quiz that you can start plugging into, and it's not that noticeable with this first slide, but you'll see that the color scheme changes here. And to use a template, all I do is click use this template. All right, so now we have all these elements loaded, and there's a lot of lorem ipsum across the various slides, but this is a presentation that's already been gamified. So all you need to do is start adding elements of the content too. So you'll see here, they're as indicated by the dark blue and interactivity and dark blue and animation. Or to preview it, the animation and interactivity has already been set up. So for all of these templates, if you wanted to create a quiz, all you would do is replace the text that's included in the editor. So you'll see if I click on wrong answer, it's kind of loud. Forgot that sound was going to pop up, but there's ways of including sound, and then I'll be taking, the interactivity is already set up, so I can try that question again. And now if I choose the right answer, just want to make sure that the volume's not too loud. All right, I get it right, and I can go to the next question. So this is already all set up within the Genially template, and it's all fully editable from the images to each object. So I can go ahead and edit the text, write my question, whatever the question is, and then edit this text. right? To where this game is already set up for me and my students. All I had to do was edit the text, and it's ready to go. But if you do want to get more creative with it, of course, you can go in and select an object and replace it. You can say, oh, well, I don't like the interactivity on, how something comes into the preview or into the slide, and it's all fully editable. And that's really what I emphasize when I talk about how easy it is to get started using Genially, is that these templates and games and escape rooms are already created for you. In a sense, all you have to do is go in and edit the material within it. There was a question about inserting a YouTube video. The short answer is yes. If I go into the left panel of my screen, you'll see insert, and all you have to do is paste the URL for the YouTube video, and it's included directly within Genially. Again, going back to the interactivity of it, if you don't want the video to pop up, if you want it hidden behind an object, going back to our last example, we can create interactivity within any object. So I'll use this person, for example. I can create a window or a tooltip. Either one would work for this video. And then go to the video icon in this top right and insert the video. Cool. So a couple ways that you can include a video, throughout a presentation, hidden within a presentation. It all depends on how you want students to interact with your presentation. And again, for gamification or for presentations, what you're doing is you're telling a story. So you choose how you want your students to consume. Another fun feature with Genially is you can insert, so we spoke about video, but you can also insert audio, either from like a SoundCloud or Spotify or YouTube Music link. But you can also record audio directly from your computer. So you heard the sound of getting an answer correct or wrong. But if you want to narrate any point of your presentation, all you do is click. For the first time that you click to record an audio, if you're on Chrome, I know, or any browser, I think you'll have to give your browser permission. But all I do is click, and I start recording my audio. And once it's recorded, just stop, and you'll see the audio file included here at the bottom left. Options to autoplay the audio, loop it. You can hide the player, but you'll see that it's already directly within my Genially, right? And upon previewing it, clicking it, and I start recording it. Oh, little computer glitch. The mic on my MacBook is broken, but just to give you an idea of, hey, we can, if you want any kind of narration on any part of the presentation, it's one click and your audio's in. I know we're running out of time, so I do want to reach some of these questions. But before I do that, I just want to note that we have a full library of images, cutouts, and GIFs that you can pull directly from. Click of a button, the GIF is in the presentation. We have Smartblocks, which I think are really cool ways of plugging in, graphs and charts that don't take much customization. So this is like another form of templates. that you can, modify the numbers directly within a presentation. So say if I double click on that, and I see here in my right panel, data, I can modify that data directly within Genially. And then we talked about inserting pages. If you want to modify these pages in any way, you can always, hover over and duplicate a page, change the animation, the page transitions, and so forth. But let me take a look at these questions, as I know we're running out of time. You do not have a limit to the number of Geniallys that you can create. I challenge you to create as many as you can. And I really would love to see the diversity of what you create. Can you switch between the education side of things to a business Genially? Maria, could you maybe clarify what you mean by that? And just so I can quickly touch on that. I've shown some educational templates, but there are plenty of more business centered guides and presentations that you can pull from. So I wouldn't limit the focus of everything that I've shown you strictly on education. Students do not have to download an app to use or interact with the Genially presentation. I'll show you. So once we finish a Genially, what we would do is we go to All Set. There are 2 ways to publish, either public or private. So you see here by the star, this is one of the main differences between a free account and a EDU Pro account, which some of you folks have, is a public presentation. Basically what that means is if you publish the presentation, it can be found on Google. If you were to search darts quiz or whatever the name of it was, it would scrape the contents of it. Private just means you have a private link. If you want to make it reusable, you can send a template to someone else, and they can create a Genially using what you created. But for now, I'll create the private link. I'll click All Set. And in this case, we would share it with students or whoever would want to view it as a social page or as an exclusive page. Exclusive page is basically what I was showing you all earlier, just to show you what it looks like. This is a link that you would share with the students. Again, it's all in the cloud. And just with that link, anyone can start interacting with the presentation, right? To show you what the social page looks like. Social page includes, other creations that you have, creations that might inspire you that you can dive into. You can include a transcript. Where was I? Oops. Is there a way to view what students got wrong? So, Dasher, currently not. Although we are in the process of integrating with SCORM in order to gauge a student's interaction within a quiz or a presentation. So that's incoming, and I'll let Leanne know as soon as that's released. Just to give you a timing of that, probably within the next 2 to 3 months, but I'll keep you all updated. If these are embedded on a site, can various students use it from different portals? Yeah, so what I didn't show is, so I showed the links to view as a social page, but if I go here to insert, you can pull this iframe and embed Genially's on most, if not all, LMSs, so that various students can use it from different portals. We embed with, say, if we can embed in a social media, I think you can, well, not I think, and you can interact directly with a Genially on Twitter, for example. You can also embed a Genially inside another Genially if you want to Geniallyception it. But many ways to share your work, but the few that I'll note are these links for general viewing or embedding. We also have the ability to go to just embed directly into your Google Classroom account or Microsoft Teams if you use that. And so the last thing that I'll mention, because I know we're a little over time, is just on Maria's note. So a lot of what I showed today is, focused on, education and learning, but it's, if I go back into the templates that I can create, so I'm going to go create a Genially, I can search for anything. I'll search, I don't know, business, see what comes up. And we'll wait for this to load. My computer's been through a lot today, so bear with me on the speed of this. But for example, these are just some minimal modern presentations that you can start editing or working with, right? So if I click into this, we actually have a large portion of the corporate sector that uses our technology. I would say the Smartblocks are probably a large way to interact with Genially in that sense. Say if you wanted to create a guide, some of these might be business focused if you want to create a database of or organization chart. I would recommend that you play around with these templates, do some searches, and I'm pretty confident that you'll find something that suits what you're looking to create. Thank you for that, Kavita. And I hope that alleviate your concern, Maria. I just didn't have enough time to dive both into the education and the business sector, but what I'll leave you all with today is, take some time to explore Genially. And as Leanne mentioned, I'm happy to set up another training if we see the group is yearning for something more specific, like gamification or a more corporate training, or if you want to dive into audio or some tips and tricks of how to make it more animated or interactive. But I'll leave you all with that because I know we are over time, but this is just the beginning of your Genially journey, and I'm really excited that you all were able to join me today. And I'll actually put my information in the chat if any question comes up. So I'll be your main point of contact here in North America. My Spanish colleagues don't want to give me a trip to go visit them, so I'm here in Texas and closer to your time zone for whatever comes up. But it was great speaking to you all. I hope this was valuable, and I'm honestly excited to see what other questions come out of it, because it is really a product that you can get lost in pretty quickly, and I mean that in a good way. There's so much that you can do. So if there's not anything else, thank you all so much, and hope to be in touch.
Thank you very much, Christian, and thank you very much for the very wonderful audience who's been participating. I know they're very excited, and we definitely will be having a second session probably early next year. So if you need any additional information, as Christian mentioned, 21st Century Educators, we do have a Genius Center. And so those of you who would like to explore and you currently on the free plan, you can contact me and I can always put you on to show you the different options that we have. And you can message us at admin, I'll put it in the chat, admin at 21st Century Educators. So it was really wonderful. Thank you very much, Christian. And thank you very much to all the wonderful participants. As usual, let me just put the email that you can contact us. And we will see you soon. We actually have a training coming up from quizzes soon, so y'all can look out for that. So that's it for now, and I will keep in contact with you, Christian. Thank you very much. So that's it. Have a wonderful evening, everyone.
Okay, bye. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Bye.
Bye, thanks.
Bye, everyone.